I just have to express my deep gratitude to our sponsors, our hosts and sponsors of this beautiful Congress. I was warned that we must prepare for their warm welcome, but I was obviously not very prepared enough. Thank you again for your warm hospitality. So today's topic is the Croatian National OSH program for the period of 2009 to 2013. We can also call it a little walk down the memory lane, because the new task group has been chosen for the work on the next National OSH program, but the work has not yet begun. So this is going to be a little retrospective of what has been done until now. This is a brief overview of the content we will go through, the introductory part, the current situation, the needs, and the conclusion. For the introductory part, we must take the fact to our knowledge that we can round up the statistics for Croatia nearly for all years in amount of 1.5 million workers, around 50 deaths on work, and around 1 million lost days due to the work injuries. So the adoption of the Croatian National OSH program has been obliged by the ILO Convention, the Croatian OSH Act, and as well as the European Commission regarding the Croatian EU accession negotiations, which have been successfully completed, and we will be joining the European Union in less than 2 months. The assessment of the OSH system as a basis for the National OSH program proposal draft was conducted by the Croatian National OSH Council in its former assembly. The OSH Council is an advisory body to the Croatian government. It is comprised of representatives of the state, employers, unions, and experts in the OSH area. But you must be aware that our conclusions and our recommendations do not have any legal obligation to the Croatian government. They can choose to either accept it or not. So the current situation is like this. The Croatian National OSH Council, at the moment when this strategy was being made, had 2 representatives from employers, also has 2 now. 2 representatives from unions, also has 2 now, but the only change that has been made is in the area of the number of experts which are represented in the OSH Council. 2 experts were present during the creation of this national program, and there are 4 experts present now. And there are, of course, the most representatives come from the state, 5 then, and also 5 at this moment. Specific methodology was used for assessment, which was comprised of vision of development with general and specific objectives and indicators for monitoring and evaluation of OSH performance in all aspects. Overview of the current situation regarding regulations and determined problems. Requirements, which included measurements of and simulations and tracking of institutional and legal frameworks. The general guidelines which were followed were in the area of human rights, in the area of population policy, in the economy development, in reduction of state budget expenditures. There has been a lot of debate about if this is good or if it's not. And also in the reduction of costs in economy. Strategic guidelines which were followed were the principle of sustainable development, which is the current hype in all areas, not just in OSH. The principle of prudence, the principle of prevention, and the principle of partnership, which we can all see being here together is probably the best way forward. Basic goals which were set in the OSH national program were to reduce the number of work-related injuries, to reduce the number of occupational work-related diseases, and to reduce the number of accidents at work, while improving the health status of workers by means of prevention, and to reduce the economic losses due to work injuries, occupational and work-related diseases, in form of sick leaves, early retirements, and disability. We had a couple of fairly large affairs regarding asbestos in Croatia during the last couple of years. So the current situation is as follows. The scope of analyzed area included the economy, health and healthcare, the pension insurance system and OSH, state administration, education, the role of social partners in OSH, and the basic problems in OSH protection. The economy, while observing the economy factors, basic indicators like GDP, AMP, WPP were used. The state of technological development in the manufacturing and service sectors were also considered. The labor market situation, and of course we must not forget about the gray economy, which is currently estimated to be around 3 to 5% of GDP. So it's roughly 5% involved in the amount of GDP. And of course the existing legislation. Health and healthcare area included occupational medicine, Croatian Institute for Occupational Health, Croatian Institute for Protection of Health at Work, occupational medicine teams, and a network of contracting entities for occupational medicine. To follow on the health and healthcare part, but also the fields covered were monitoring health status and causes of illness, data on occupational diseases and occupational injuries, occupational medicine and cooperation with employers, which is particularly important because the results of our surveys concluded that specifically the worst situation is in small and medium enterprises, and of course the health workers and collaborators which are involved in the prevention and protection of workers after something happens. The current situation with the pension insurance system and the OSH is probably not sustainable if nothing changes. We have pension system and health system balancing on a sort of a scale. Depending on the current GDP per year, something could go up, something could go down. Something must be done to improve the balance of this virtual scale. Of course, there is a state administration problem. Labor and occupational safety, the department in the Ministry of Economy, Labor and Entrepreneurship, which was now the Ministry of Labor and Pension System, the National OSH Council, and the State Inspectorate. As many previous speakers concluded, I can also conclude the same fact that we have excellent laws, but the sad thing is that they're not being enforced in their fullest. And of course, the educational part included the scope and analysis of the educational system, the professional orientation, or to better say, the lack of professional orientation, and the situation in the OSH education in all areas, something which Dr. Bowman spoke previously. The role of social partners in OSH is specifically vital because there is the role of the unions, the role of employers, the sector councils of the Economic Social Council, which is also an advisory body to the government of Croatia, but their advices as well as ours don't have the legal weight. Basic problems in OSH protection were recognized at the European level, and the goal was set to reduce the number of work-related injuries and professional diseases by 25% in the period of 2007 to 2012. We can guess if we did it or if we did not do it. The current needs are as follows. The determined needs for implementation of the national OSH program were the strengthening of administrative capacity, which was also done via a very successful IPA project, the harmonization of legislation, the indicators for monitoring and evaluation of progress, institutional and legal framework, and of course the inevitable predictable costs. Strengthening administrative capacity, as said before, was a very successful IPA project, which included the Croatian Institute for OSH, State Inspectorate, the OSH department in the ministry responsible for labor, and the Croatian Institute for Pension Insurance. Harmonization of legislation also spread throughout the areas of vocational rehabilitation, vocational guidance and selection, and of course, the education. Indicators for monitoring and evaluation are always, we were and used to be, and probably are going to be considered like just needless costs. Institutional and legal framework, when OSH is considered, must include both three-party states like state, employers, and insurers. So let's formulate some sort of a conclusion. The active Croatian National OSH program for the period from 2009 to 2013 covers a wide area and is very thorough. However, taking into account the new possibilities and advancements in OSH field, it is necessary to implement them when work on the new national program begins. As I said before, the members of the new expert work group have been selected and are expecting to begin work on the development of the new national OSH strategy soon. How soon? There is a popular song, "How soon is now?" We will see when it would happen. But one thing we all must bear in our minds is that while working on these national OSH programs, and it's not important whether it's for Croatia, Albania, Macedonia, Germany, we don't represent the workers, we represent their lives. Thank you for your attention.